whether it's the homecoming tent party, which we welcome you all back to campus in October, art events, sport events, hopefully everything, something for every alum. The point is to stay connected. We also do some important work in that we are providing financial support for students and faculty through our scholarships and awards. As I said, the key is to stay connected. And however you choose to do that, I just want to leave you with a few thoughts. First and foremost, never underestimate the power of your degree from the Illinois College of Business. Although it has been many years since I crossed the same stage that you will be crossing today in this same place, my degree continues to open up new doors for me both professionally and personally. Secondly, stay passionate in your career pursuits. Let the Illini Network pave the way for you. And last, but certainly not least, it is absolutely critical that you give back to future generations of business alumni. Whether it is with your time, your talent, or your treasure, you will be inspired by how much an impact you can have on their lives every day. At a recent board meeting, in fact, some of you may have participated, we heard from over 20 student groups in terms of what they would like to see out of our alums. Everyone was very eager to hear from not only highly experienced alums, but new alums, and we'll welcome you back to campus for that. Whether you would like to mentor students, be a guest speaker in class, provide some job shadowing, many different ways to get involved. So as our newest members of the College of Business Alumni Association, I look forward to hearing from each of you and encourage you to take advantage of this powerful and prestigious, diverse network. And my very best wishes. And thank you for being such an important part of the future of the College of Business at Illinois. And go Illini!
Thank you, Julie, for your remarks. We have many things to be proud of in the College of Business. One of my favorite points of pride is that we are the source of more chief financial officers to Fortune 500 companies than any other university. We're delighted to have with us today one of those. Jenna Wilson is our 2016 Convocation Alumni Speaker. She earned both her bachelor's degree and her master's degree in accountancy from the College of Business. She currently serves as the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of TIAA. With over 30 years of experience in financial services, she oversees financial management, planning, reporting, actuarial, tax, and accounting. Before joining TIAA, Jenna served as the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer at Wyndham Worldwide. In addition to her professional service, Jenna serves charitably as a trustee and vice president for Catholic Charities of New York, as well as director and former chair of the Los Angeles Child Guidance Clinic. Please join me in welcoming Jenna Wilson.
Thank you very much and good morning. Dean Brown, distinguished faculty, honored guests, and members of the class of 2016, I'm delighted to be here with you today. Having spent many happy and formative years here on this campus earning my degrees, it's always like home when I come back. I'm also struck by how much the campus continues to grow and prosper and the community changes around you. It's an honor to be here to welcome or to congratulate the class of 2016, the first class of the University of Illinois' second century. Today I'd like to begin by recalling some profound wisdom from that great American philosopher, Dr. Seuss. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. Oh, the places you go, there is fun to be done, there are points to be scored. And I just want to tell you that you're off to a great new place. And so I'm going to walk you through some things that have really helped me along the way, and I'm going to use some friends to tell you a little bit about that background. I want to talk a little bit about a friend named Kitty, who I went to school with here. She, after graduation, went on to get her master's and ultimately took jobs in banking and eventually married someone she had dated on campus. And eventually then they adopted a son from Vietnam, a daughter from China. They moved following her career Los Angeles, Chicago, Germany, Hungary, China. But amazingly, she was working for a bank that had offices very close to mine in New York, and I used to see her all the time. This is decades later. I just want to tell you, she did not imagine where she would end up all these years later when she was sitting in the chairs you're sitting in today. My other friend, his name is Jane, was also an accounting graduate like many of you in the audience. She went to work for one of the other large accounting firms and returned to Chicago, as many of you may do. And she, a couple years later, moved to San Diego to work for another of the big firms and changed jobs a couple of times. She was on the verge of emigrating to New Zealand, where she thought she was going to live the rest of her life, and she met her husband just shortly before she was supposed to leave, and she met him through a bicycle club. But this was a bicycle club for really serious riders whose bikes cost more than your car. Indirectly, they ultimately got married, and she has since then accompanied him to the Tour de France. She has worked side by side with him, building bikes in the garage, and she has become a nationally renowned cyclist in her age group. She did not expect to be where she is today when she was sitting in the chairs you're sitting in. And now, amazingly, she and her husband have recently moved to Connecticut, where we see them regularly, just a stone's throw away. That's how small the world is that Julie was talking to you about in the connections you have with your fellow alumni. So let me see if I can figure out where my other notes are that say the two things I want you to take with you as you leave here today are some ideas. One is how to help advance your journey along the way, which is a piggy bank. This is a virtual tool to add to all the other things that are inside the invisible backpack you leave Champaign with today. This piggy bank, if you think about it, sounds kind of corny, but I'm going to ask you to make deposits into that piggy bank for all the people that you know here today. Those small deposits into relationship banks that can last for decades. By this point, you've begun to accumulate lots of relationships. Deposits with fellow students, co-workers, roommates, teachers. Your job is to keep those deposits fresh by staying in touch, helping them with job searches, offering career advice. I remain close with those people that I've known as a student, like the two friends that I described, even though our paths took us far apart from one another over the years. And both of them, at different points, have provided much needed counsel and support in critical junctures in my life. Some of the strongest personal references are people I've known for 10, 20, 30, even 40 years, at least in part because we continue to invest in those relationships. I would not have had the career choices I've had or been selected for some of the roles I've had if I had not been able to tap into those relationships that I nurtured over the years through those relationship piggy banks. You are fortunate to have new social media tools that will make building those relationships over time much easier than it might have been in the past. The effort required is modest, but it's for your mutual long-term benefit. And being an active member of the University of Illinois Alumni Association is an easy, near-term step that you can take once you leave here today. But I have one suggestion: 140 characters. Sometimes it's listening when someone's had a bad interview, sometimes it's buying someone a cup of coffee and helping them with their assignments. But the important thing is that you can make a difference in the lives of the people sitting around you here today. The next tool that I want to talk about is what I refer to as a travel guide. Now that may sound really old-fashioned because you have everything available to you on the web. So think about a travel guide in a different way as I talk through what it can do for you. The most important thing is you have already done a lot to plan the journey ahead of you. Whether you prefer Photos, Lonely Planet, TripAdvisor, I encourage you to research the next stage of your journey in advance. Figure out what you want to do along the way, but be ready to improvise if the weather doesn't cooperate, if you run into a detour, or even better, if something unexpected looks good enough to warrant revisiting your plans. I traveled to Alaska, Mexico, Brazil, Europe, many other places with the two friends I mentioned earlier. We always planned our trips in advance, but we were also open to the possibility that there were things out there we didn't know, and we were willing to change it up along